Hello, everybody. Welcome to the project doc. Sorry that I started late. I couldn't get StreamYard to recognize either my microphones or my webcams, which is kind of an important thing to have recognized when you're trying to stream. So, welcome everybody to the Saturday version of Project Doc. You might be used to the Monday version. It is the same version, but on a different day. And how's everybody doing today? Bolly says he can't hear me, but Mark says he can hear me fine. I think I should be coming through okay, but other people can hear me. Okay. Did I try calling my IT guy? I am my IT guy. And I did the typical Irish person who works in IT's response to that. Have you tried turning it off and on again? And I did, and it worked. So all good. Yes, so as per usual, this is the project doc, and what we do here is that we take a look at your projects, and you can come and show off a project that you're either working on. If you have any questions that you'd like to ask me or the chat, you're welcome to do that. If you have something that you've finished and you want to show it off, let's do that too. Or even if you're thinking about potential projects and you want to brainstorm ideas, that's on the table as well. And I want to make it clear as well that they do not need to be like really fancy projects. They can be at any stage. So if you're just blinking LEDs, that's cool with me. I have a better chance of being able to help you with any questions. And yeah, so if you want to join the stream, you join the Discord, which is linked in the description below. And if you just tag me, so at Brian L, and say you want to join, I'll add you to a super secret role, and then you can join in. So people who are already that super secret role, I have shared the StreamYard link. You should be able to join it. So the Shipu, if you just look one post up, you'll see the link, or at least you should. And yeah, so you can join in and we can do this. How's everybody's weekend going? I watched a little bit of rugby. It was good. I don't technically live in Leinster, but I'm kind of from Leinster, so Leinster beating Exeter Chiefs was fun. I was happy enough. It was a good game. Okay, enough small talk. Let's get on to the first person, who is Deshipu is the first person to join. Hello, Deshipu. I can't hear you. Is that my fault? That could be my fault. I don't think so. Yes,
now I can hear you.
Now? Yes. Hello.
Okay, then I will just get rid of the phones. Headphones. Okay, so I can talk about two things. One is something I already worked on quite a bit and used quite a bit. And one is something that I'm just researching. So,
sure.
By the way, I'm a electronics hobbyist programmer by day. Yada, come from Poland, live in Switzerland. I guess that's it.
Yeah, I forgot to ask that question.
Now I can't hear you. Wait.
You can't hear me? Oh no.
Sorry. I guess I will just wear the headphones.
I can still hear you anyways.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, and you can hear me.
That works.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. Sorry.
All good. No problem. Well.
Right. Technology, right?
Yes.
Anyway, so I have one project that I have finished, and of course it's continued. There is no such thing as finished project for me. You can always improve it, but there is already something to show, and that is this keyboard.
Nice. Yeah, like it. Let me
And
make you full screen.
I have a project that I'm researching, which is basically a newer version of this game console. I even have a nice prototype already made of
Nice.
cardboard,
Ah, yeah.
just to see if if the usability is right, if it's physically
Hmm. It's a great idea because,
fine.
like, failing fast is the best way to fail, right? So if you can
Correct.
fail without having to order a PCB or even design a PCB, even better.
Right. So in this case, it's about if it's big enough to fit your
Mm.
fingers on it and so on.
Yeah, yeah.
So you really need to have a physical prototype
Yep.
for that. So I don't know which one is more interesting. Uh,
I'd like to hear about the keyboard.
okay, so yeah, so this is a result of like 3 months of building different keyboards,
Yeah.
or even longer. So I started with a regular traditional keyboard with staggered keys, and I just wanted to make it as low as possible.
Mm-hmm.
So as thin as possible, because I really don't like mechanical keyboards because they have too much key travel and they
Mm-hmm.
force me to keep my hands in a right position where it's like,
Mm.
I need a wrist rest, and then it's awkward. So yeah, so I wanted to have a keyboard that would be super thin, and that product actually failed because the switches I got, the mechanical low profile switches I got, were really inconsistent quality.
Mm.
So the keyboard, they were so bad that the keyboard itself was inconvenient to use. But
Yep.
once you make one thing, you know how to make it. You get ideas for improving it, and I started to build more of those keyboards. Among others, I built this Atrail. So this is flat rails because it's a flat Atrails.
Okay.
The original keyboard with this layout is called Atrails.
Yeah.
And because I had so many room in the middle here, I decided
Yeah.
I can put something in here, and this is a PSP joystick and
Yeah.
two buttons.
How did you solder the PSP joystick to the board?
I actually disassembled it,
Okay.
removed the PCB part from it,
Yeah.
soldered it to the board,
Ah, cool.
and
Yeah.
then reassembled it back together.
Yeah, cool.
Yeah, and
Okay.
you have to be really careful to not make the PC, this PCB part is very thin,
Mm.
and when you are soldering it, it's very easy to make it twist or
Oh,
like
okay. Yeah.
deform,
Yeah.
and then the joystick doesn't really work very well. Like
Mm.
you have scratching and things like
Yeah.
that. So it's a bit tricky, but generally, if you disassemble it first and then solder and then reassemble,
Mm.
it's easier.
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, now I have this thingy that should make it much easier.
Yeah. Yeah, they're really doing the rounds at the moment on
Yeah,
Twitter. I still
yeah.
have mine somewhere. I have not used it.
I got it specially to solder this. This
And it
is
worked okay for you? Yeah, that looks cool.
yeah,
It's
those are LEDs.
yeah,
So yeah,
nice.
impossible any other way. I
Yeah.
tried a similar project with hot air. No. Anyways, so yeah, so I got this joystick in here, and turned out it's quite convenient when you just want to quickly click something and you don't want to take your hand off the
Mm.
keyboard. But the keyboard wasn't. It was really too minimalistic for me.
Mm.
It's fine for typing, and I with this keyboard I discovered that first using ortholiner layout. So layout where you have columns of keys that are straight and not like staggered, like on a typing machine,
Yeah.
like on a typewriter. Really helps with my touch typing. This probably is a personal thing, but it really lets me align my fingers to the correct row and correct column and keep it there.
Yeah.
So that helps, then you don't move your hand around. And the second thing is, because this keyboard is so small, you don't move your hands. You don't have this temptation to take off your hand of the keyboard and press a key that is on the other side, for instance, or something like that. So this really improved my touch typing. And it's pretty fine as long as you are typing text. Problem is that all the symbols are on other layers. So then you need to press a special key to get to those symbols, and that gets really inconvenient when you are programming. Because you need all the different parentheses and mathematical symbols and so on. Operators. So I decided, okay, I will make a keyboard that is similar to this, without this vertical staggering, because I discovered that this doesn't do anything for me. It doesn't make it more convenient.
Yep.
No idea why people love it. So probably I'm just strange. And I made a keyboard like this, only without this one column.
Yeah.
So it was symmetrical. This one has this one more column, because on the one more version, the last version I made, I decided, okay, I really need this additional column to fit the symbols and so on. So I can rotate it so it makes more sense. You can see this is pretty much traditional keyboard layout. The text on the keys is wrong because I didn't have keycaps with the right size, right? So enter is and tab is pause. But otherwise, and control is an asterisk.
Yeah.
Otherwise, it's like completely traditional layout, except it's ortholiner, except for the parents.
Yeah.
Because I didn't have room for them here.
Yeah.
So I had to move them down there.
And is this your daily driver now?
Yes, since 3 months, I'm using exclusively only this keyboard, and it's great.
Nice.
Another thing I discovered before I did this, I did one more that wasn't split.
Yeah.
And I discovered when you have an ortholiner keyboard, you really need it to be split. Otherwise, your wrists are just at strange angle, because the staggered keyboard is kind of split already, because the keys are kind of diagonal already, and you keep your hands apart more. And
I don't know if anybody else did that, but when you described it, I instinctivly, put my hands, I could imagine that.
And this is really bad. For like repetitive stress injury and stuff like that. So so I finally got a layout that I like, and it's super great for me. But I also noticed that this joystick here, I wanted to play with this a little bit more. But I didn't want to have to design a new keyboard every time.
Yeah.
So what I did with this, also I wanted to get this finished quick. The PCB design. So instead of designing the middle, I just left the pin headers in here.
Yeah.
And I have this module that you plug into it.
Oh, very nice.
Right. Yeah, you just plug it into here. So you can have different ones. Sorry. Yeah. So this one has the same PSP joystick.
Yeah.
Two mouse buttons and a knob, so you can do scroll with.
Nice.
It's actually encoder, not a potentiometer. Right.
I really like that idea of like, finalizing a part of a build and like leaving, the rest of it kind of optional.
Yeah, I need to do this more often because it really. Also, now I can, instead of this PCB for the keyboard, it's quite
Mm,
expensive because it's big
yeah.
and quite a lot of work. But
Mm-hmm.
now I can order like PCBs like this just to replace the middle of it
Mm.
and test different variations. So I
Yep.
have. So this is the same as the one I have here right now.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I also can show something. I didn't have a free pin for controlling LEDs, but I did put like backlight in there, so I
Yeah.
just have a switch
Oh,
in
nice.
here, so I can switch it on and off.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, so there are also LEDs underneath the module.
Yeah.
And yeah, yesterday I got the parts for this one, which is quite
Okay,
a
cool.
bit different. So this is also a joystick
Yeah.
and an encoder, but this
Yeah.
one
Oh,
is more
cool.
like a horizontal one, and they
Mm.
both have buttons
Click.
in by pushing them. You can click.
That's not a PSP joystick anymore,
No,
is it?
no, that's something I found on AliExpress.
Nice. Yeah.
It's much nicer. I need
Mm.
to find some kind of knob for it, but otherwise, yeah. And on my planning board, there's also this tiny little trackball
Yeah.
from BlackBerry,
Yeah. 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 Nice.
and this thing, this is going to be very interesting. This is basically a home button from a phone,
Okay.
and it has built into it like a camera based, like the thing you have
Oh.
under your mouse.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So you can use your finger as if it
Ah.
was a trackball, but it's optical
Yeah.
instead of a real ball.
Oh, interesting. Yeah.
So those are SPI based,
Mm.
and they just have registers from which you read the position. So that's really simple. The problem is I don't know which pin is which on this on this
Yeah. Yeah.
connector. Yeah,
Yeah. Just gonna have to
so
solder
it's
it up and
going
find
to
out.
be some experimenting with this.
Mm.
But I'm really excited about this because if I get this in the middle of my keyboard, I could even install it inside a key.
Mm. That would
So
be really cool.
like on J or F, so you don't have to even take
You're
your
just moving
finger
it
from the
around.
key.
Mm. That'd be cool. All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um. Yeah.
but that's all experimenting stuff.
Yep. 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 No, that's cool. The ship. Have you what are you going to do to solder to that? Will you just use wires, or do you have like a PCB layout done
Yeah,
for
at
it?
some
Or
point I will make another PCB like this
yeah.
for
Okay.
it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
same for the trackball. But the thing is, with the trackball, I need to sit down and measure it,
Mm.
make a footprint, and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
on.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
it comes like in. It actually comes. This is the trackball part, the mechanical
Mm.
part, and it has tiny magnets in there, in here.
Mm.
The black things are magnets,
Okay.
and then on the PCB you have Hall sensors.
Yeah. Okay.
So they have to be placed in exactly the right places
Mm.
on the PCB.
To
So
getting your
that's a bit
calipers out.
all right.
Yeah, that's really cool, Deshipu. Thank you for sharing. I really like that approach of like um, separating out the build, like, and that kind of failing fast thing that you kind of mentioned with or sorry, that you were talking about with the paper
Right,
prototyping.
right, yeah,
Like that's all the same thing. Like, as in, sometimes I think while we try to add all these features into everything and perfect everything, and then you don't finish anything, or
Correct.
like,
Yeah.
so like if you have a working keyboard, get that part ordered, and then you can start slapping on the nice things on top of it. I like that approach a lot.
The
So
problem with this is, though, that you have, in the end, it's more expensive.
that's true.
Like
But
the final product you get is more expensive because you have to order two PCBs or
that's
more.
true. I guess if you finalize something you really liked, you could shrink it back down
Yes,
again. But
that's the idea here.
yeah, no, that's great, Deshepu. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you.
And I'll talk to you again.
Yeah. Same.
Okay, so that was Deshipu and his keyboard project. I think I saw some questions in the chat, so maybe if Deshipu is still on, he can answer those in the chat. Things to do around what buttons were being used and stuff. But yeah, I think there were some cool projects there. Okay, so next up we have Andrew Rogers, and I think this is the right one to add. Hello, Andrew.
Oops, I got the wrong camera on. There we go. How's that?
Yes, that's great. For those who weren't here last week, that is not a fake background, and Andrew went over the background with us, including white pool noodles that I immediately looked on Amazon in over here to see could I get them, and they are available, but they're very expensive. They're
For
like
pool noodles, they're
10
expensive. Yeah.
Oh, but
Even here they are.
Yeah, they're about $10, maybe even $11 each here.
Yeah, I
So
think they're
that's
about
really expensive.
6 or 8 here.
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
they're not cheap. They're not. I mean, if you just get lucky and you're like local Poundland
Yeah.
or whatever has them, and they happen to have white, grab them, because if you have to special order them, it's like, I don't know what else they get used for, but it's obvious someone is using them for something that demands a higher price than summertime fun in the pool. So
Yeah. I know that Braden did buy some, so he's carrying the torch of building the largest 7-segment display.
I'm excited to see it.
Yeah, me too. I'm not going to be doing it because I don't want to spend $100 on pool noodles just to build it for a project I probably won't finish myself.
Just another one of those that you won't finish. Yeah,
Yeah,
I know that
exactly.
feeling. So the pool noodles kind of got me thinking about some other stuff I've been doing lately around LED diffusion, which, kind of becomes kind of it's just an interesting part of a lot of these projects. We all like to play with addressable LEDs and build all kinds of crazy stuff, but by themselves, they're pretty damn ugly. So like the work people have done with the panel LEDs and the grid separate, like 3D printed grid separators or laser cut grid separators that make them just look, 100 times better than the bare LEDs. Similar to that, mine's in a little different space. I'm going to start. I don't know. Do you have to switch to my screen share? Yeah, so I'm going to start this whole story starts with this photo here. So I had just I was out on the west coast of the US, and I don't know, internationally, I would assume Europe is much like the eastern US. There are no dark skies left anywhere in the eastern US where I am. So every time I'm out west, I make it a point to find somewhere as dark as possible with as high as elevation as possible, and just kind of bask in the Milky Way. And I also take photographs. And I had just come from a photo workshop and stopped at a like Army surplus store and picked up a crappy like $4 LED flashlight and tied it onto some paracord and made this photo. So that's where all this starts from. And you'll notice, which if you've ever tried to do any persistence of vision work with like a WS2811 strip, this will look really familiar to you. The tire tracks, tractor tire look of this. And so the other problem, of course, is that as the LED goes behind me, the flashlight's facing away from me, and you don't really get much of an effect other than, maybe the background being lit up a little bit. So this kind of set me on a very long, something I've been working on. It's been on the back burner this was 3 or 4 years ago now. So I've been like just incrementally working on this over time. I'll show you just a few of the revisions that got me to where I am now. So So that was the next one I tried was 2811. So this is just 2811 LEDs. I think maybe 4 rows of them wrapped around the round, like a round, like Pringles tin on a string. And again, tractor tires, obviously very, 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 very visible. That's the new one. These are just a few more examples of that. Just the problem of those low refresh rate LEDs. This is down on the waterfront in Chicago. Had a lot of fun with it, but just was never really happy with the end result.
This is so cool. I know you're probably going to show something better now or something improved, but I'm like amazed with what you had, even with the flashlight on the string. And actually, even not the flashlight on the string, the sky in that top photo is amazing. I was looking at the light first. I was like, "Oh, there you are," with some light. And then I looked up. I was like, "That looks fake."
Yeah, I mean, it's a little obviously like the photo has been adjusted, the contrast pushed, and all that. But in the Western U.S., this is probably at 1,000 meters elevation above sea level, MSL. You can just look up and see it, and you can see it with the naked eye, not just the core, which is what we're looking at here, but you can kind of see the whole band stretching over your head behind you in the summertime. And it's just amazing. And honestly, the worst that we all have to go through this with like the pandemic and like trivializing massive suffering across the globe with how it affects us, but not being able to travel and experience that over the summer in 2020 was just heartbreaking for me, because I've just gotten so it's grounding. It has this like putting yourself in perspective with the universe effect on you that is just great.
Just something interesting about Ireland. You said that was at 1,000 meters or whatever. The tallest mountain in Ireland is like 1,200 meters.
Yeah, and this is just like some hills in California, basically.
Yeah, like I remember going skiing once, and like base camp was like 2,000 meters, or
right,
something exactly. Like yeah. So Ireland is not a tall place.
I don't think I have any photos in this set, but one of my favorite places to take photos of the Milky Way is Crater Lake, which is this incredible, and it's at about 2,200, 2,300 meters, something like that, I think. Right around a little over 6,000 feet, I think. Anyway, but it's just in the middle of nowhere. So like there's not a lot of mountains around it. So there's not a lot of structures around it. It's just kind of this big, tall volcano in the middle of nothing. And yeah, when you're up there and the aerosols are very low because there's nothing pushing them up because there aren't other mountains around, you can just see just incredible clarity. So the next revision I did was actually like, and I actually just took apart the old prototype, so I don't have it here, but I'd taken a vinyl tube and just like sanded the inside of the vinyl tube. I had an LED. Let me see if I can switch cameras here now. So I had this, this LED.
Let me make you big there 1 second. Yep.
So I had this LED, which is just like I think a 3-watt module on one of those like pre-made aluminum PCBs you can buy. Sorry, I'm probably not very loud.
That's good.
And then I had another one. Actually, I used white wire coming off the front of that PCB to another one facing it. So they were kind of opposing each other in this little vinyl tube with the edges abraded. But I was never happy with that one either, because I needed the light coming out the end as well. And honestly, like just taking sandpaper to it left a lot of artifacts. So even like here, you can see that like in this photo, you can see as smooth as it is, because I was able to, by driving my own LEDs, I was able to get like a 20 kilohertz PWM frequency, which just disappears in any kind of photo. But you can see that like the light intensity is not even across the span of that little piece of tube. And even though I had LEDs on either end, so we're looking at it, the two LEDs are facing like this, and we're looking at it from as the camera's looking at my fingers. But I just could never get it evenly diffused with sandpaper. So then I found these other materials, and I'm going to switch cameras again. So if you can make my
Yeah,
camera
no
big.
problem.
So I don't know if people have discovered these or not. This camera just a little. Have discovered these or not. These are dropped here.
Hopefully not made of glass.
No. Here we go.
Yeah.
So these are plastic bottle preforms. So they injection mold these and then ship them like this, typically to the bottling plants. And at the bottling plants, they get stuck in another mold and like either steam injected or just injected with hot fluid to expand them out to the full size of like what you would see a water bottle or something like that. So
yeah,
somebody somewhere figured out that there was a good secondary market for like, K-12 test tubes and all that. So you can buy these pretty readily, AliExpress, Amazon, whatever. They vary widely in price. Like obviously a bottle is a nickel or something. And these are everywhere from like, sometimes you can find them as cheap as 20 or 30 cents a piece. And then they just go up on the random weird, like this was a really hard size to find. And they get much more expensive, but they're PET. They're, what is that? Polyethyl tetraethylene. Is that right? PET, for bottles.
You're
I think
asking the wrong person.
Somebody in the comments will know that for sure.
Yeah.
So anyway, they're great. They're shiny. They're, almost optically clear. Very, very nice. And then they have this nice rounded end, which was important for trying to get light, not only on the edges, but coming out the end. The problem was how to get them to be diffused. And I did everything. I tried sandpaper on a stick with a drill. I'm going to switch back to this camera, swing that one out of the way. And just nothing I could do could get like a nice even. And probably if I had a bead blaster, it would have been a simple solved problem. But what I ended up doing that worked fantastically well, I think, is using diamond grit that I had for another project. This is the final result here. Diamond grit and plastic BBs from an airsoft gun and just leaving them. I built this little thing. Come on. Oh, I didn't plug it in yet. Sorry. Oh, I did it wrong. Sorry.
The tech demo. Press the tech demo again.
Yeah, there we go. Oh, my power supply is not turned up to enough current.
Oh, there's no panic.
There we go. Power supply was cutting off. There we go. So I built this little tumbler with a bearing and a lot of hot glue and ended up leaving it for like, I don't know, 2 or 3 days. And that was how I was able to get these diffused. And they look pretty good now. And then I wanted to cover one more topic. That's what the final diffusion looks like. I'm actually going to use a much larger LED in this final version, probably I think I have a 5 or 10 watt module that I'll end up using. And the first version of this I did and worked really well, tested it. I mean, I got these results that you see, that you saw on the screen share. It looked great. Was really happy with the smooth light. But I built it using Blink. And my rude awakening was that when I got out in the middle of nowhere where you can get good photos of the Milky Way, I discovered that even if you set up Blink to use BLE and offline mode or whatever they call it, it still does a check-in, like it checks in with the yes. And so I got out there and couldn't control the light because I couldn't access the Blink app. So If you plan on using things anywhere outside of civilization, don't use Blink. That's actually what set me down the road of using the EMB Ajax library I was talking about last week. So my next step is to implement this really large tube with the higher wattage LED and the really truly offline software, and then hopefully now that we're vaccinated over here, and hopefully as the summer starts and Milky Way season begins, I'll be able to get out and do some really cool stuff with it. So that
looks cool.
The frosting, like I don't know. I'd love to hear input from other folks on like a better way to achieve this frosting, or diffusion layer on a plastic or other material. But that was the best operation I could come up with.
Frank mentioned sandblast, but I think that was the same as the thing you mentioned, like
bead blasting.
You called it bead blasting. In Ireland, it would be called sandblasting, anyways. But
they're two different processes. Bead blasting is
so
sandblasting is using typically a silica or sand, and then bead blasting you normally use a glass bead. So it for something like plastic, bead blasting is a much better option because it's not going to cut all the way through the plastic accidentally. It's just going to kind of deform the surface.
There's a guy from Ireland, actually. His internet handle is Parts Fusion, and he on Tindy makes a giant LED, like a really giant LED, like is in the size of your fist. And he molds the enclosure of the LED. I can't remember what he molds it out of, but like he combines different materials or whatever to get the diffusion. How translucent it is.
So he takes like a regular, like any of our normal LED modules, and like makes a fake big old style LED. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
It's not just a regular LED inside a big enclosure. It's a more powerful flat LED shining up, but that's in a big enclosure. And then like he has two like pipes coming down that represent the anode and cathode. I guess it'd be a module like that, but he doesn't have a heat shrink on it or a heat sink on it or anything.
Yeah, the interesting thing is, like, I'm going to make it out of this because I do like doing the cityscape stuff, and the cityscape stuff, it actually needs to be really bright. But there's actually sort of a challenge in getting the turn down ratio on whatever your controller is to drive low enough for being out in the Milky. I mean, it's really dark out there, so it is very easy to over saturate, and you don't get in or drive too much light, you don't get any saturation because it all just goes into the highlights. I had, if you want to look, just switch back to the screen share one more time and before we're done.
Oh, 1 second. Yep.
This was the sort of final, this was the only time I've gotten to play with it actually out under some dark skies. This was in Idaho back in 2019, or as I like to call it, last year. And even here you can see I had a hard time getting it dark enough. But to get the color to really come out. But so fun little like amalgam of hobbies coming together to do an end result.
Super cool. It's reminded me of the fact that I really need to learn how to use my camera. I recently bought a new camera that the one, just to give a comparison, it mightn't even look that different, but here is my capture card, and here is my webcam, which obviously the colors look completely different, but like I have literally no idea how to use the camera. Come back. Come on, there we go. So like I have it just on auto, doing whatever. My wife was a little bit into photography, and she took a couple of beginner courses or whatever, or one beginner course, I guess. But yeah, There is some questions in the chat about what exposure time is on this.
I it's a question. Oh, it might actually be in here if I shared this directly from my camera, which it looks like this one hasn't necessarily been edited. So let me look. Does it say? It does not say. No, it wasn't. It's probably 30 seconds. It's really like you can't really do much more than 30 seconds or so without a tracker. And I don't think I was shooting this with a tracker. I do have a tracker for like if I'm trying to get like purest, beautiful photos in the Milky Way, I'll set up and shoot with a tracker. For this, I probably wasn't using a tracker. So it's probably 30 seconds, which if you have this was probably shot at 16 millimeters or so. So if you've got a really wide angle lens like that on a full frame camera, you can get away with 30 seconds with Milky Way and it doesn't look too bad. Generally it's 30 to 15 to 30 seconds. If, you're just trying to do it yourself, with any random gear you have. If you have a tracker, if you spend the hour it takes to get everything set up and aligned, you can get away with like a 2-minute exposure with just gear you can carry in your pack, not something you need a truck to set up. So
yeah, seems cool. Yes, thank you, Andrew, for coming back on again and showing us another really cool project. It is interesting kind of how like something that seems simple, like as in finding the right vessel for diffusing the LED or whatever, is like it's a significant challenge. Like,
this I think this was we talked about this last week a little bit, but these the LED stick that I made with the MPU built into it is what I did these with. So these are all just like the coloration is driven by the orientation of the LED stick.
That's so cool.
I think is kind of what you're going to be able to do with the Trinity, right?
You'll have the MPU 6050 on it, so you will be able to do whatever. The main use case is falling sand projects. They lend particularly well to the matrices because there's a lot of LEDs, so you can make some pretty nice fallen sands with them. But like, there's no reason why you couldn't do something like this either. That's actually a pretty good idea. You, like, change the color based on the rotation is a pretty nice sounding feature.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I still have this setup. It's just I think an ESP32 with the MPU. I think it's a 6050 as well, and then a strip of those like dense 144 per meter APA 102 LEDs, so that they also have the 20 kilohertz rates. They look great in photos.
That's super cool. I think it's not like it's not unique to BitLooney, but BitLooney did a project. I think it might have been not for him. I think it might have been for Elector or something, where he used ESP and accelerometer and some neopixels or whatever, and made a persistence of vision like lightsaber or something, if I remember right. But yeah, no, there's definitely some cool things you can do. I never actually thought about using I never thought of the matrices as kind of being portable before, but I guess why aren't they as in, you could bring them out and do something like that with them. Like, you could
I think you could do some really cool stuff. This is just like a section of like 2 or 3 LEDs lit up and then moving along the strip based on the orientation. And so you can draw these I think I had maybe one more photo of this where you can like draw these flowers. Did I put it in here? Maybe I didn't. I just threw this album together right before the call. So, but yeah, I ended up having this where I had like long lobes and short lobes. And they would, like, if you kept going around, it would keep switching between the long and the short. So it would just layer up these really cool flower looking things. So yeah, you can do a lot of cool stuff with orientation and a matrix or strip.
Yeah, You've reminded me of a few projects of mine. You are more than welcome to stay on while I wax on about them, or if you need to drop off or
I'm
anything, feel
fine.
free either. So two that immediately spring to mind is one project that it's sort of along the lines of the persistence of vision thing, and it's just what it is the one of the 3D printing channels, is it Make Everything, Make Anything, Denton? Yeah, he built a double hinged pendulum or something, and
Mm.
he put an IR LED on it, and the background he had like glow in the dark paint on this big circle. So he had this double hinged pendulum that he'd swing around, and it would just like draw patterns. The IR LED kind of like left a trail behind it on the glow in the dark. Make Anything is the name of the channel, and yeah, so it would draw like all these amazing patterns. Um, it's a really cool video to see like the different patterns it does. But like I had an idea, and maybe it's been done, similar has been done before for sure, but like making an analog clock out of that same kind of a setup. So you'd have like one second hand probably that would just spin around and around and around, and underneath the second hand would be like an array of IR LEDs. And when it got to where the minute hand should be, it would draw the minute hand, on the like glow in the dark background, and then like rotate. And when it got to where the minute hand should be, it'd do. And I thought this would be pretty cool. UV, sorry, not IR, UV. I thought this would be really cool, and the stumbling block around that was actually to do with like getting power to the hand. Basically, it's hard to get like, so if you powered the hand with a so the hand has to rotate on a motor, obviously, uh, but then like to bring power to that hand to power the LEDs, if you don't power it using a battery, like if you power it from the same source as the motor, for example, it's actually quite difficult to get the wires up there, because this thing is spinning around and around, and if you just ran the wires up beside it, it would just tangle up. And there are like these things that you can get, I think they're called slip rings or something, that pass wire through it. But then how you rotate the hand needs to change, because that is now your center point of your rotation, not the motor anymore. So you need to kind of, I don't know, gear it up or something where you're. So yeah, that was a project that has kind of ended on the chopping block floor for me. I really should just power it using batteries. That makes it just way simpler.
Well, you could do it. There's a couple of ways to do it. One is move everything onto the arm and just bring the power. And then you can also get hollow shaft motors, which, may be pricier than just like grabbing whatever motor you have on a shelf already. But you can get hollow shaft motors with those slip rings built in. But
Maybe
it's much easier to just get power than it is to try to get like power and control through. So if you can move everything to the moving piece, I mean, I wonder if you could even do it. Like you could do it with a shaft encoder for sure, but you could also just like, I don't know if an MPU would be fast enough. Maybe not. Maybe you would need a shaft encoder. It'd be easy enough to do with a shaft encoder. I've actually, for another project we did, I actually built my own shaft encoder by just printing like a zebra pattern on a laser printer and using a reflective IR LED sensor pair to get like, I don't know, I needed like 4 or 5 pulses per turn. So just like on a piece of, I think it was on a piece of PVC tubing that I was just wrapped the paper around and taped it, and it worked great. So yeah, I think if you can move all the electronics to the rotating mechanism, and just bring power, it gets a lot simpler.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. Somebody was saying that seen someone do it with a Pico and an induction charging pad, so wireless. That's a good idea. Maybe make the hand a PCB. Yeah, the hand was going to be a PCB. Slip rings just on the PCB. Maybe the Shipu says just do it in Photoshop. Yep, probably be the same effect. But yeah, that was a project that
I would
I
like
thought
to
would be
play
fun.
more with photoluminescence. I got to see the son of the founder of Atari has this really cool place in LA called 2-Bit Circus.
Okay.
And I was out there again last year in 2019, and they have like all these really cool like group arcade games that are very kinetic. Like, you know, one of them is like, it's a game you play with track balls, but the track balls are like these really heavy balls the size of like a yoga ball that you have to like use both hands and like wrestle with, and like 4 people doing it at once. Like just all kinds of really cool, very kinetic stuff. There's one that's like racing pump rail cars, but you're actually pumping a real rail car. But they have this like rotating section where they just have like cool artist technology stuff. And one of the things was like this projector, like a UV projector, and then a photoluminescent wall. But it was like the most photoluminescent like material I've ever seen. So when you were standing in front of it, you were like leaving these traces by like with your shadow. And it was really inspiring. I think there's some really cool stuff you can do, especially now like UV LEDs are so accessible. You know, it used to be kind of hard to get UV light sources. It was a pain. You had to deal with high voltages. But with UV LEDs as accessible as they are, there's some cool stuff.
Kind of inspired to take this project on again, though.
Should do it.
Yeah.
I look forward to it. Thanks for having me on again. This is great. Enjoy talking about this stuff. So it's fun times.
Yeah, cool. Thanks,
Have
Andrew.
a good evening.
You too. Bye bye. So that was Andrew with his photography projects using the addressable LEDs, which is pretty cool. Tiny Alex is planning a trip to LA already. I can't even imagine traveling still, which is kind of weird. But it was funny. Andrew was mentioning about like being vaccinated and stuff. Like as all the Europeans know, the UK Europeans are doing okay with the vaccination front, but I think all the rest of us aren't doing so great. Well, like I can't imagine being vaccinated this summer, anyways. So just from a guy in his 30s who works from home. Although Ireland has recently changed to be age only rather than like the original plan was to be like, you know, somebody working, you know, in a shop should get it before I do. And I actually agree with that. Just from a like who is the most exposed type of thing, like isn't I haven't worked from the office since March of last year. So like, you know, I have less chance of contracting it. I don't need to do it for my job or anything. So, but I think that might also be really difficult to I don't know, keep on top of. The other thing that kind of Andrew's talk kind of reminded me of was I have this really long ongoing project that I keep meaning to get back to, but I haven't for a while. And I even did a little bit of work with, I say I did a little bit of work, Tetra DB, who is often on the chat. I'm not sure if he is now, but he did some work with me around making do I have it there? Making So you know, one of the first projects I seen that I really, really wanted to build was Great Scott made an LED matrix project. So using addressable LEDs, he made dividers out of foam and like put it in a frame and put like a diffusing material on top. So you had like these kind of crisp squares. I loved it. I really wanted to build it. This was in like 2016. I think I bought the stuff for it. And I did build one a couple of years ago, and I think it's in there, and I'll grab it in a second. And I took so much shortcuts compared to what Great Scott did. Great Scott was insane, some of the things he did. I don't know if he'll ever watch this, but he was insane. Like some of the stuff, like he cut every single LED strip. So like smack bang in the middle of his 10 by 10 LED strip, he did each individual one. He drilled through the timber at the back of it for every single wire. So every LED had six holes drilled in it, I think. So power in, power out, or maybe he didn't. I think he did, yeah. Maybe he didn't do power out. But anyways, he drilled holes to go back out the back and up and into the next one. And it was just like, oh my God, this is so much work. So I cut out that by just doing a strip. And I think I made like a 13 by 13 matrix, because that was just this. No, I think it was 13 by 13. Like I wanted to use basically a single strip and put my dividers down on top of that. And so like I was taking shortcuts left, right, and center, but I still cut the foam stuff by hand. And I even like 3D printed like a template. It took me hours. Honestly, I think it took me like 8 hours to cut all of it, maybe even more. It was a disaster. So I still have this ongoing project to make one that's 3D printable, and TetraDB has done some great work around that, and I just need to get back to that project. The ideal way to do this is using a laser cutter, because it's so much faster and normally doesn't have size constraints really. But the problem is not much people have laser cutters, while loads of people have 3D printers. Why didn't it's challenging to 3D print a divider, and it'd be really slow to print like 26 dividers, and like for them to slot into each other and stuff as well. It's surprisingly challenging. It's not as straightforward as you'd think. But yeah, that's maybe for some other time. We have another guest on to show, but I'm going to give him a second because I can see in the preview he's typing on. Oh, he's good. Hello, Dan. How's it going?
Hey, good.
It's just as I was calling you, I saw you typing. I was like, oh,
yeah. I was just telling my girlfriend who's out getting groceries that I might be on your show, so she shouldn't waltz in the door singing or anything, which is always a possibility.
That is a possibility. When I first started streaming, I used to lock my door just in case.
Oh, yeah.
Like my wife would not want to be on camera at all.
Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly. It's mostly for her own embarrassment more than mine. So,
yeah.
But so how are things?
Things are pretty good. I'm really tired, so that's good. But I had a relatively productive week with. I ordered the Trinity, so nice. I'm looking forward to seeing what that's like. It probably won't work. It'll be my first time making a USB programmable ESP8266 or ESP32. So the likelihood of that working first time is pretty small. So we'll find out.
Got to start somewhere.
Yep.
Cool.
We do.
Cool.
So you had a successful week, judging by Twitter.
I had a semi-successful week, yeah. Ups and downs. So I've been working on my Perseverance badge for a while. I think I showed this off last time. And I finally ordered some more final versions of that in Enig Gold, which is I'm really happy with. So these are going to go on my Tindy store sometime this week, hopefully.
What color is the PCB?
The main color it's a white
It's
mask,
white, is it?
but that's
Okay.
the main color of it is kind of the FR4 color.
Yeah.
Which is, yeah, that yellow color.
And who did you order this off? JLC?
From JLC, yeah. And they did a great job. The only thing is that, yeah, I had to make a note on this silk screen because there's a lot of fine silk screen details. I think I mentioned before that they kind of do some automatic adjustments to pull back the silk screen to avoid pads. And, for the art, you can tell them to not do that and leave it as is. So that was a big change.
It's interesting. Just one thing to be careful about, or I don't know if careful is the right word, but something you might run into is there's a lot of the manufacturers have what is it, a watermark on the FR4 material. So
I've
you've been running into
actually.
that, have you?
A little bit, but it's really not too bad. This one actually has one on it. If you see that little red spot there.
Yeah, that's pretty minor.
You can always say it's like a cloud on Mars or something,
Some of them are bad. Like like JLC have had a couple of different watermarks. There's a KF one which is pretty minor. Like you can't really see it that well, there's a couple of different letter ones that are fine, but then there's this one, and I'll tweet an example of it because I'm not sure where exactly they are, but it's like this red circle stamp one that, like, if you get it on the front of your thing, it really does impact. I don't know why I'm doing an animation with my hand, even though I'm not on screen.
You're not on screen.
Yeah. So sorry, I interrupted
no
you.
worries.
Please go ahead.
No, not at all. Yeah, no, I've been very lucky, I guess, and I should really go through. I ordered about 50 of them, and I've only gone through a handful of them. So what I should really do is go through them in depth and make sure I didn't get burned by any of those, because it's entirely possible.
So one thing to say about that too is I originally was like, oh, if there is a watermark on it and like it's on the front, I can't sell these. But I've been talking to people since who are like big into the like badge lifestyle thing, and they're like, that's the material, that's what happens. Like it's that's the look of the draw, basically, in terms of
right. You could put up a disclaimer, I'm sure, and say, hey, some of these will have a little watermark and part of the deal. So So
I have like 100 PCBs somewhere of Christmas trees that are watermarked. And like the natural reaction is for people to say, oh, you should just sell them discounted. And that's potentially true, but like the major cost for selling a kit is not the PCB, it's the assembling of like the kit and the parts and then shipping it to whoever and all that stuff. And it
doesn't take you any less time to put together one of those, though.
And you are creating competition for yourself. Like, you have
undercutting yourself.
Yeah, you have a unique product, and you are now undercutting that unique product with something of like the same quality or whatever, but it just has that little red mark. So you're probably just going to end up taking sales away from yourself if you go down that route. But then again, I have like 100 PCBs doing nothing there, so like I probably should do something with them.
Well, that segues nicely into my other topic. Well, actually, before I segue, let me show you the one other little difference I have between. So this is the original silver one, and it's got this little laser light, but it's a pretty dim indicator LED. And I got some great new ultra bright LEDs for this laser light with the gold, and it's got a really nice effect back there. So, so anyway, so these are just pretty simple glowing badges, but nice first one. And so my other design that came in this week is this which is an Ingenuity, which is the Mars helicopter. I don't know if you can see that.
Mhm.
There you go.
Yeah, looks good.
So there's an artist I'm friends with on Twitter who made this little vector design file and let me use it for the PCB art. And it's a great little design. And I want to do something a little bit more complicated than just the glowing. So I have a blinky LED. So let me connect to this real quick. I don't have it on the battery. So I'm actually right now, I've been working on kind of getting the power as low as possible. So I have this connected to this little device called a BatLab 1. I got this on
Okay.
Tindy. And similar
Yeah.
to like the power profiler kind of toolkit, and it comes with this software where you can kind of set different batteries, and it emulates the battery and powers it over these little probes, and then you can get a current reading from it.
Nice.
So if I just turn on the output here, let's see if this works. So I got it to blink faster and faster up to 2,400 beats per minute, which is the RPM of the rotors on the Mars helicopter.
Nice, yeah.
And then it eventually slows down, spins down to about one every.
Is that just a regular LED mounted from the back, is it?
Exactly, yeah. So this is you can see the mount
Nice.
there. So I just bent over the LEDs, and then I have a 3mm hole in there that it fits through. And,
that was one of my plans for a true hole Christmas tree, was to do that. And somebody basically ordered the true hole ones before I had finished a design for them. So
really?
I had to and it was pretty close to Christmas. So I had to drop that idea for a more like reliable one in terms of like, I didn't want to trial out this going through the back thing.
Yeah.
But
I know I've been doing a few of those like trial by error on this, or trial by fire on this one. I don't have experience with a lot of these, but the first flight of the helicopter was originally supposed to be tomorrow. I think they've delayed it till later this week, but I'm trying to kind of like move fast and not break too many things, but get something in my Tindy for right around the time of the first flight would be great. So so I've been tinkering with that. And the fun thing about doing with this little power analyzer, I've been kind of playing with like the deep sleep mode. So once this spins down, and it spins down to about 2 per second, or 1 every 2 seconds, then it's using very, very, very little power, and it should blink for many months on a 2032, which is kind of cool. So
what's driving that? Like, what's the microcontroller?
Right. So here we go. Let me take this off here. So this is my mistake of the week. Like I said, moving fast.
Oh, the Tiny.
Yeah. So here's the ATtiny 85 on here, and I've played with these Tinies before, but I've only ever done them in like the dip form, and so this is my first time doing kind of the surface mount form, which is great for badges. Obviously, you hide the whole thing away on the back. But when I made the PCB design in KiCad, and I used a DigiKey footprint for SOIC 5.3 millimeters, double checked the name of the footprint, but I did not actually measure the footprint to be 5.3 millimeters. And in fact, it was like 3 millimeters wide.
Yeah.
So enough to cause a serious problem in getting that chip on there.
That's one of the tricks of the trade that people say to do, is to print like your footprints on paper, and if you have the IC, to drop it down. I often don't have the IC,
that was it exactly for me too.
But for that style of a badge as well, you can get a Tiny's, definitely the 13s anyways, in like different package sizes. Like some are smaller than others, but like if you made like elongated pads, like relatively elongated pads, it would work with either.
Right. Yeah,
which works.
Which I should really get into the habit of doing it, and I'm kind of slowly building up a KiCad library of my own footprints that are, some of which are kind of modified, and I think that's a modification that I make a lot and should do more often, is stretching out those pads, especially because I'm hand soldering everything. So having long pads helps.
Is no harm at all. Like my library of like other parts, I use Easy EDA for doing stuff. Is I copy and paste everything. I'm like, oh, I need to use that barrel jack. Oh, I use that in some other project, and I just go into that project, copy it,
Right.
and
Exactly.
works fine.
Yeah,
but it's just nice to have a reference of something like I know this footprint works and is fine.
Yeah.
So,
but definitely a good thing to double check before your Gerbers go out the door, because that's like a little bit of an expensive mistake. But I was able to dodge it, as you could tell, thanks to some advice from people on Twitter and in your chat rooms. You can kind of see actually on this one. Where is it? Here. The solution is on this side. I'm only using actually that one pin, the power pin, and if I scrape off a bunch of that solder mask, I can kind of make a longer pad for myself that I can solder to, which I thought would be really, really fiddly and delicate, but it was actually much easier and more reliable doing that than the alternative, which was bending the pins of the IC under and kind of trying to solder from underneath. Doing that without a hot plate or an oven was really, really tricky. So,
what are you using to scrape the trace?
A little X-Acto knife, and actually I have one with I don't know where I put it, but I have one with a nice like kind of curved blade to it, so that only a little bit of it actually touches the trace. But I was thinking what I should really do for doing a bunch of them is get an X-Acto blade and figure out the width of the trace that I need to scrape and snap off the rest with a pair of pliers so that it's only a very thin blade. And I think having that blade be a little bit dull helps, so that you're scraping like kind of it's literally like scraping a lottery ticket kind of thing, rather than if it's too sharp. I think you could cut the trace itself. So I'll do a little more experimenting with that.
There's these fiberglass pens that are really good for that, but I guess they're probably too fat for the trace. Like, as in you probably scrape bits of the other side of of it too, which would be a problem. But it's a useful tool. It's a useful tool to have around, because they're only like $5 or whatever.
That's good to know.
Sometimes they get you out. I think so, like you'd probably find them as like like for this job, but I think they're also kind of called like jewelry abrasive removers, or as in.
Oh, okay.
But like basically they're a little pen-sized thing, and there's fiberglass in them, and you kind of twist it to poke a little bit more out. I think I have one here. I should have one here. Dropping a lot of stuff. No, who knows where it is? Hidden in my abyss of stuff. But
well, yeah, I'll have to look for that, because that's a useful kind of trick to learn for bodging. It's one of those things that's like, it's a skill I hope to not need too much more in the future. It's inevitable.
Like that'll be like a programmer saying that they don't want to know how to debug. Like it's happening. Like
you're gonna have the bugs, so figure out how to deal with it.
may as well get good at it. So Joe Anon was saying about using a 1 cent one-time programmer. So that was the 3 cent Paduk ones. They're not really a great option, because you need to have like a specific programmer, which like low runs doesn't make sense.
Right.
And also you like, they're. It's easier to have something like in a tiny. Oh yes, you got your little flasher.
Yeah, I got a little. This is like a 10-year-old Arduino at this point, but it's got a ZIF socket programmer on it, which I'm obviously not using for this, and then a little soy clip that I can clip on there. But that's a hugely nice part of this, is like I can throw together a programmer with stuff I have lying around the house already. So makes a big difference.
The other potential thing is you'd probably get away with in a tiny 13. But it's not. It's like it's the difference of $1 for the 85 and like maybe 40 cents for the 13.
I think I may do another revision of this with the 13. That's the one that it only has like what three pins or something.
No, the 13 is pin compatible with the
Oh, it is.
85.
Oh,
But
okay.
it's just like there's a tiny amount of programming space on it. But
I
it
see. I see.
sounds like,
Yeah.
what you're doing should be absolutely no problem
Yeah.
for it.
It's pretty
Because the
simple.
Christmas tree runs off it, and that's a little bit more involved, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So
Yeah. I also realized I
but
should have put the so another thing for Rev 2, I should have put the LED on the PWM, the single PWM capable pin on the AT Tiny, which I didn't. So that would have allowed a little nicer kind of pulsing effects or something. But next time, there's
yeah.
always something.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure if the 13 does actual PWM. You can kind of
Fake
fake
it.
it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm not an expert on that sort of stuff
Yeah.
whatsoever. Dave Derrico said the Tiny 13 is fun. Like the Christmas tree is like blatantly stolen off a design of Dave's.
Mm.
He made it like a badge that, what was it, a sloth badge, and like I
Cool.
modified the code a small bit, but like my schematic was the exact same as his schematic basically. Like, so I had a lot of head starts with it. So
Nice. I'll have to check that out.
yeah.
So let's see. I don't know what your timing is like, but I do have one other project I could show
Go
off
for it.
that's kind of
Yep, let's do
photography
it.
related. So let me actually share my screen real quick,
Yeah, go
and
for
I'll
it.
show you a video. Let's see. So this is a project that I started last season. Can you see my screen?
No,
Uh-oh.
it hasn't shown up
Oh, sorry.
as something to add yet.
Let's see. Oh, I need to do application window, VLC. Let's see. How about now?
Yes.
Yep. Great. So I'll just start these playing here. So these are some time lapses from my garden, or actually my neighbor's garden. And I thought I'd kind of continue the photography theme. Andrew had such a cool photography project. So, and while these are playing, I'm going to move. So these are some irises blooming, and all of these kind of.
Is that playing for you?
Oh, is it not playing for you?
No,
Uh-oh.
I can
I'm
see
sorry.
like what looks like now I can see it.
Now you can see it. Oh, maybe it's in full screen mode. It doesn't like it. There. How about now? Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see it.
Great. It may not be the best frame rate for you, but hopefully you get an idea of it. And I'm eventually going to kind of compile these into a nice YouTube video. But,
yeah, the frame rate isn't
great.
amazing, but the picture quality is good.
Yeah,
and
so this
it
is from.
looks really cool.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, so this is from a Raspberry Pi, and I've always wanted to do a time-lapse project with the Raspberry Pi, but the cameras that they used to have are not great. And they eventually released, just this last year, they released the Raspberry Pi high-quality camera, and and it's really great. Like with a good lens on it, you're pretty close to the quality of like a digital SLR camera.
Like that's a really good photo
like
quality.
The clarity of that, especially in bright sunlight, is really amazing. And
well, at least to this untrained eye, anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not an expert by any means, but yeah, I know what I like, and these look great. So I'm very happy with how these came out, and I'm lucky enough to have, we rent, but we have some gardens both on our property and on our neighbor's property, and that I got permission. So these are her irises that I got her permission to set up my camera and lighting in her garden every night to capture these. So
are the irises ones that close up at night, is it, or is this just the first bloom?
This is just the first bloom, so they stay open, and
cool.
It seems like it really works best. This time-lapse photography of flowers in particular works best with flowers that bloom at night, because during the day there's some air movement that really screws it up, and but at night the air is like almost perfectly still, so you get this kind of quality. So this one I actually set up a little stick and a zip tie on the end, or a twisty tie on the end to stabilize it so that it wouldn't move around too much. But
Oh, on the plant itself, or the flower
so
itself?
attached from the tripod to the stem of the plant, basically to stabilize it. So that's something I'd like to experiment with more. Is like, but that seems to be really key to kind of stabilizing it and getting a really nice stable shot. So.
Yeah, my wife is growing some vegetables at the moment, and it'd be nice to have some.
I'm going to stop sharing real quick.
It'd be nice to have some time lapses stuff for that.
Yeah. So here, I'll show you my setup here, which is basically, this is a jewelry box that I got at the thrift store.
Nice.
And I put some magnets in the lid here and along the side, so it kind of like sticks closed real nicely.
Yeah.
And then in here, I have some holes drilled out for mounting a Raspberry Pi Zero.
Yeah.
And the high quality camera there mounted inside it. And then I just have a piece of Velcro tape, and then I have some of these USB power bank batteries that I kind of Velcro. Oh, now the tape's coming off, but I Velcro these in here, and then I can swap these out. Basically, these will last about 36 hours or so, and then every day I go out there and I swap in a new battery and try very carefully to not move the camera too much, opening and closing it.
Yeah.
And then and my other trick is, obviously this doesn't have a screen on it, and the lens has to be manually focused.
Yeah.
And so the way that I deal with that is I run a program on the Pi called RPi Web RTC Streamer. And that gives me a live stream on my network, right? So then I can go open it up on my phone, pull up the stream on my phone, and start streaming. It's very low latency WebRTC. And then I can kind of like focus the lens, zoom in on the image on my phone, and focus the lens while I'm looking at it to get the focus just right. So
nice.
So it's a little bit of a hassle because it's a headless camera, basically. But it works.
That solution would not work in Ireland because of the rain. Like a wooden box outside, which does not survive.
Yeah, this one.
But that's really cool.
I gotta refinish it, I think, at some point. But I'm very lucky. Like I said, I live in a very mild and dry climate, so I can get away with it. But but that's the nice thing about it. This equipment is it's pretty inexpensive. So it's like if I need to replace any part of it. And here's the last part of my setup is. Put a little LED. Oh, but it's dead. The battery's dead. But it's a battery-powered LED panel on top of a little tripod.
Yeah,
kind of set up around it. That makes a huge difference for getting kind of a studio quality to it. So
nice.
So anyway, that's my project. I'm gonna write that up at some point on Hackster or something. But I'm slowly refining my technique over time. It's been a fun spring.
No, that's great.
More, I think we'll have yellow and orange canna flowers in the back in the summer, so we'll get some of those too.
Nice. This is the time to be getting your time lapses out, all right?
Yeah,
for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's about all I got, but thanks for having me as usual.
All right, no problem, Dan. You're welcome anytime.
Good to see you.
Okay, you too. All right, take it easy.
Bye.
Okay, so that was Dan with his PCB projects, and then the time-lapse one too. I do actually really want to make a time-lapse project at some stage. Just before I finish up, I'll show you a couple of really simple PCBs that I made since the last time I was on. Let's see. Dan the Man. Quite like the Maker Cats. Brian did shave. He was really, really fed up of not being shaved. Let's see. Share screen. Wait 1 second now. Oh, go over here. Would you stop? Screen 2. All right, perfect. Okay. So some things that I tried. I tried to see if I could put surface mount headers on the top and bottom of the Trinity. The reason you might want to do this is some matrices are too small to fit the matrix board into it. Like the plastic of the edges is in the way. So you could use like a ribbon cable to connect to the input instead of dropping the shield in. It doesn't fit well, or at least I'd have to change the size of the board. So I said I'd quickly try that and then said, no, that doesn't work. This is a project from a while ago that I got working. This is the Wi-Fi 7-segment display. It's basically a 7-segment backpack from Adafruit, except it has this was made back when the default color for the bottom silk layer wasn't green, it was mustard. So it's pretty ugly. So it's basically the Adafruit backpack is a 7-segment with this HT16K33 and it's controlled using I2C. It's basically the exact same size as the Adafruit one, but with an ESP12 module on it. And I saw a smaller ESP module and I was like, oh, I must resurrect that project. And, but this is just not available anymore. So it's not a good one to start with. Asked some questions on Twitter about potential replacements for it. I think the Shipu recommended one that is probably the front runner that I can't remember the name of now, but I have that looked up. But this went from a project where I was like, oh yeah, I must rework that to it is now like right back at the start of what I need to do with it. So I'll think about it again. So on the Trinity and all the matrix boards, there is a space for a GY512 module, which is the accelerometer module. And somebody was talking about, could you add an SD card? And so the default SPI pins are used up by the matrix, but it is possible to use SPI with the pins that are broken out. So I made an micro SD card sized, a micro SD board that is the same size as the GY521, so you could drop that in instead. I haven't ordered it yet because I kind of don't know what, like, if I want to do anything with this, because like, it's an awkward enough, like, it's hard to know what are the financials of doing something with this, because this is what can you charge for this board? And you're not going to make enough of them to like make it worth your while to get like a maker fabs to do it. And then, do you do it yourself? And I don't know if the financials work out for this one, but we'll see. Another thing that was on my to-do list for a while is, let's look at the top. Let's get the top layer back in here. So my matrix board is designed to carry about 6 amps on the trace, but if you want to power more than 2 like 64 by 64 panels, you're starting to run into potentially using more than 6 amps. So this is just a really simple board, which is like a way of powering, like, say you wanted to hook up 8 panels, well, maybe every 2 panels gets one of these things just for distributing the power. But yeah, and that's pretty much it. And we have a special guest. It's Dave Darko.
Hey.
Hello, Dave. How's it going?
Well, pretty good so far.
Good.
Well, but yeah, I try to be. Well, I tried to get something done today, but that wasn't really the case. I'm sitting here in between all my trash piles, and I was
You're in
going
a
through.
different spot. You're out in your kitchen or something, right?
No, it's the
Oh, you're
working area.
rotated.
Right. I'm just looking. Normally, I'm looking that way, but
Okay.
yeah, this area was free enough to put my notebook over here, and then I was
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
something. Well, I was watching you and the
Mhm.
other people, and I didn't really want to join today because I don't have
Okay.
anything to show. But I wanted to remind everyone of MakerCast for tomorrow. So yeah,
There you
before I
go.
forget that,
The Meowcast.
or the Maker Cats.
The
I like the
Cats.
Maker Cats more.
Maker
Yeah, that was
Cats.
another typo. but yeah, so pretty cool people on there. Sion is hosting. I guess everyone is following Sion already. We could post the link to it, I guess. Do you have the link?
I guess I have to post the link because I am the moderator.
Well, I
Why?
am too.
Oh, you're a
You should-
moderator. Yeah.
You should mod some people. but yeah, I also closed the YouTube link. But anyways, yeah.
I'll grab it. Yeah, I should moderate some people, but it's difficult because it's my second channel. I'm never logged into YouTube as my second channel. Subscriptions.
Are you a guest on the MakerCast? I don't really.
No, I'm not, because I don't have anything to show other than PCBs that don't exist yet. Here is the link to the MakerCast.
Yeah, so I just read Timon is on there. Blitz City DIY Liz is on there. Thea Valkyrie. Did I read that right? Yeah. Also known as Stargirl or Thea on Twitter will be on there the first time.
She makes I want to say Winter Bloom, but also because I was talking to a German, I wanted to call it Winter Bloom. I don't know.
I think
which
it's
way
Winter Bloom.
Winter, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we would normally pronounce it, but I wanted to acclimatize myself to you instead of Winter with a V.
Okay. I didn't get the difference.
Pick
there.
up that. And Atomic 14 will also be joining.
Oh, okay.
Nice.
No, now. Okay, yeah, gotcha.
He corrected it afterwards. And that's it, he can't type. It is like 7 o'clock in the morning or something, so...
Oh, okay. Well, it's late here too. But yeah. Okay, so very nice. Did I forget anyone? Oh yeah, Simple Electronics YouTube is also on there.
Nice.
He does the podcasts, I think, that are also on YouTube.
So. Yeah, there is. If you can't get enough Brian Locke content, there is a podcast with me. There is also a podcast with Bitlooney. There is a podcast with Sion. There's a podcast. He's done the MakerCast rounds. Yeah. No, I liked the podcast. I really felt like I rambled a huge amount, but it is it is just kind of like a normal chat sort of a thing. But yeah. So that's good.
Nice. I'll probably tweet about it again. So if anyone wants to mute the MakerCast hashtag, do it now, or you'll regret tomorrow. But yeah,
never. Oh, thank you, Dev. I think I'm going to finish up now because I'm tired. So very, very tired. Yes. As mentioned, thank you everybody for joining, and make sure to join that MakerCast tomorrow, and I will talk to you all again. Ciao.
Bye, everyone.